Hey guys, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and we're going to be diving into discussion of a few clips that we have of Jay Smith on a very pivotal hadith or narration in Islamic sources on the foundational story of Abraham and Hagar and Ishmael, which is in a way kind of a favorite of ours. It's like we like to say, or as you've said, Alex, it's if you only need to know one hadith, this is the one, which is Bukhari 3364. And what we're going to find is actually Jay, I don't know if he's read it or he just doesn't know the story well, but he makes a lot of big mistakes. And this is very significant because this is at the root of Islam, the very distinctive claim that really makes Islam what it is, which is that the claim that God instructed Abraham to build at least the foundations of the Kaaba in Mecca, along with his son Ishmael. And there is backstory of Abraham bringing Ishmael there when he's an infant, along with Hagar, and leaving them there. And so that's the story that's behind this. And it's very, very crucial that Christians get this story right and not misunderstand it, because this is at the foundational difference between the Bible, really, the Torah or Old Testament, and the Quran. So we got to have this right. So why don't we dig into what Jay says, and we're going to notice where he makes mistakes and correct it and make sure that this is kind of education for everybody else, so you're never going to make these mistakes.
Yeah, great. Let's jump into it.
Here's my question. Here's a niggling problem. In 1963, when they moved the well underground, they dug it deeper to 31 meters. Now it's 31 meters today. Yet it is now situated only 21 meters from the Kaaba. Doesn't the well commemorate Hagar searching and then finding water in the desert for Ishmael in 1900 BC? Hold on a minute. So, there's the Kaaba. Mecca, the city, is all around it. Abraham lives in Mecca. He's having a problem with Hagar. He throws her out of Mecca, right? Out into the desert. She's out in the desert looking for water, right? Why is she looking for water if it's only 30 meters from the Kaaba? She could just go on to the next door and just knock on the door and say, "Can I have some water, please?" Do you see a problem here, folks?
Yes.
Many problems. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, it's amazing because it's only hadith. When we give a training to Christians who wants to reach out Muslims, we promote only two hadiths to really learn well. And Jay Smith is actually kind of looking for try to use a hadith, the one of them foundational, right? And it's about how Abraham brought Hagar and Ishmael supposedly to Mecca and left them there. So number one, what he said, the Hagar was searching for water somewhere in the desert, and she found the water. Well, if you look at the small details, you'll find out that Hagar was not looking for the water because water was not there in that plain field. That was nothing. It was barren land. So she was looking for help. She was looking for people who will help her. That's what she was doing, going Safa and Marwa. Later on, we're going to find that story.
And because in the hadith, it's in Bukhari 3364, which, as I mentioned, is the main hadith here that's of concern. It says that Abraham brought Hagar and Ishmael down to Mecca. Ishmael was a suckling infant, it says, and he leaves them there. So they're all alone. And Mecca at the time is not a city. Yep. Nobody lives there. It says it's an uncultivated valley or barren valley in Surah 14 in the Quran, and emphasizes that it's also uncultivated in the Hadith. So there's nobody living there. There's no city. There's no buildings. There's no well. There's no water. So yeah, what is Hagar going to do? She's not really just looking for water. She's really looking for people.
Yes.
And so it tells the account of her running back and forth between the valley from one hill called Marwa and the other hill called Safa. Mm-hmm. And this, of course, is commemorated in the Hajj pilgrimage, when Muslims travel and do the Hajj in Mecca, and they reenact various rituals, and this ritual is called Sa'i, where they commemorate this supposed event, which of course we don't believe happened, and the Torah teaches otherwise than what Islam claims. But how can you be critiquing Islam like Jay does, and he doesn't know this story accurately? It's so pivotal.
And yeah, he doesn't represent it right, because every Muslim would say that's not the story. Now, the second big mistake he made, he said the Kaaba and Mecca was situated around the Kaaba, and Abraham lived in Mecca and kicked her out from Mecca as she started searching for the water, while she went out away from the center of the Mecca, which is Kaaba, next to Kaaba, 21 meters away. It's like well of Zamzam. So the well of Zamzam was there. So she was kicked from almost Kaaba area. And instead of going to meet, to go to and ask for the water for the, like around in neighborhood, she went away far away, right? So that's his claim. J. Smith claim she shouldn't be searching for the help within like 1 kilometer or within 1 kilometer from Kaaba, because
right. And then he says she can just knock on doors. So that means it'd be easy to find people.
So it means
his story.
It means the Kaaba was already built, and Abraham lived in Mecca was built, Kaaba was built, Zamzam was there, and Abraham lived there. I don't know. It's not the hadith. It's not Islamic story.
I mean, maybe in Jay's story you could say that. Oh no, because he says I was going to say that the Kaaba maybe wasn't built yet, but no, it had to be, because he says it's how many meters away from
exactly.
Because Zamzam is that many meters away.
It's already there.
So I guess, like in Jay's account, it's so radically different. It has nothing to do with Islam, because you don't have an angel digging the well, because that's so essential in the Islamic account. The well is already there. As he always says in his historical skepticism about Muhammad, you have to have water. Where there's no water, there's no
civilization. Right? Yeah.
So if there's a civilization, if there's a city out of which Abraham could kick Hagar, there'd be water, there'd be wells.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
Zamzam has to already be there.
As a matter of fact, the hadith specifically speaks then people of Jurhum, the Arabs who travel close to the Mecca, they saw the birds circling around in the area which they never see the birds. They said, oh, there should be water there. And eventually they find Hagar and Ishmael sitting by the well, and they build a Kaaba there because they find the well of Zamzam. So
Abraham later builds the Kaaba. Yeah.
And Abraham later came to the Mecca and built a Kaaba there. But in the J story, Abraham lived in Mecca when the Kaaba was already built. Next to it was the Zamzam, and he decided to kick out the Hagar into the desert, and she have to run away, far away from Mecca,
I mean, in the Hadith, you have this part when Abraham drops them off in the valley, and there's the real, like the authentically Islamic account. Okay.
Yes.
Not that it's true, but Islamic account says, as opposed to Jay's story, Abraham drops Hagar and baby Ishmael in the valley, and he leaves. He goes back, presumably, to Canaan. So and as he's leaving, you have this scene where Hagar is running after Abraham, like, where are you going? Where are you going? Right? Because she, I guess, wasn't told what was happening.
Exactly.
And then after asking like 3 times, and she finally says, did God tell you to do this? And he said, yes. So this makes no sense. So trying to fit this with Jay's account is totally... What is he thinking?
I don't know what he gets information from. I think maybe he confused the story of the biblical account of expulsion of Hagar and Ishmael from Gerar by Abraham. That's exactly what happened.
30:21, he sends them away.
He sends them away.
He doesn't travel with them, but he doesn't live in Mecca.
Yeah, but now he presumed that the Muslims only changed, or Muhammad only changed location. but story is the same. That's what he said. Abraham lived in Mecca, kicked her out from Mecca, and she's supposed to go somewhere in the desert far away in search of water, because she left the water behind, which is Gerar. The water wasn't Gerar.
But doesn't he also kind of think that it's Genesis 16 that's supposed to be the parallel?
No, I don't think so.
No, he doesn't? Okay.
No, I don't.
That's
I
other people
didn't
make
pick
that
it up.
mistake.
No, but definitely the water was in Gerar. It was Gerar. She was traveling to Beersheba and looking for the water in Beersheba. That's biblical account.
Yeah.
But,
Well, and she's shown the well in Genesis 21 by the angel. It's not
that's far away from Gerar, right?
Yeah, of course.
So, but that's why I think Jay, he doesn't know probably read it once.
Yeah. He's assuming it's just they switched the location. Yeah,
just location different, but the rest is the same, right? Okay, then.
Crazy.
Yeah, a few more minutes, and that actually make a claim that the story is crazy, and we agree with it.
Even the story makes no sense. So obviously, this is not a story that's historical. This is a story to commemorate and nothing more than a facsimile of something that is historical.
Well, exactly. It's this story what Jay present make no sense from any position, from biblical account or from Muslim account.
So he's thinking it's a facsimile, his version of the account.
Yeah,
is a facsimile of Genesis 21, maybe.
I think so, yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, you can't just make up a story and... I mean, this is the thing. He's just not checking his sources.
I think he's
just making assumptions.
Whatever story he heard, it was orally transmitted to him. And if he didn't check the source, you got this wrong, right? So we all could be repeating something which we heard. We think we heard it correctly, and we repeat it the wrong way. So that's, I think, what happened with Jay, because he didn't read the story, the source material. He heard it, and later on he decided to speak in public as if it was correct information, unfortunately without checking it. Sounds like Muhammad ibn Abdullah was talking about the Quran.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Stories of the Torah in the Quran, and mixed up stories. But it's simply because he heard it orally, right? It was orally transmitted, but he didn't get it. So therefore we find tons of mistakes. And here we have Jay Smith also having mistakes because he didn't really read the source himself, or read long time ago and forgot it. Okay, next.
All right, let's get then, and let's start about the Hajj. Because if Mecca did not exist, then what do you do with the Hajj? You have to have Mecca for the Hajj. The Hajj is the pilgrimage that every Muslim must do. At some point in their life, they must go to Mecca. Where? Well, it's pointed towards Jerusalem. Well, what's fascinating is what they do is they circumambulate this direction 7 times. Why would you need to circumambulate 7 times? Where does the number 7 come from? So here they go. There's the Kaaba. What does Kaaba mean? It means cube in Arabic. Interestingly, it's the same word in Syriac. It's the same word also in Hebrew. Cube. It's the Holy of Holies, the cube, the Kaaba. There in Jerusalem, in the temple. The same word, the same function, the same building.
So he said at the end that the Kaaba has the same function as in Jerusalem, Holy of Holies, or the temple. Which definitely it's not the same function. It sounds like...
What's the function of the Holy of Holies?
Well, you can't go there. You have to perform sacrifices, daily sacrifices. Yom HaKippurim sacrifice once a year. You can sacrifice camels for Allah in front of the Kaaba, but that's closest one you can get. But there's no function exactly the same.
It doesn't represent the place where God's presence dwells when we're talking about the Kaaba, right? Because you don't have that concept in Islam, that God's presence comes down, or that it's a house for him in that sense. Whereas that is the function of the Jewish temple in Jerusalem and the Holy of Holies.
Yeah, definitely not. Let's hear him.
So here you have them going around a square building 7 times counterclockwise. Why? Well, some people thought that maybe it has to do with Petra, because Petra also had a cube that they would circumambulate around. But 7 times? Why? To answer that, you need to go to Jerusalem. It's Jerusalem where they go 7 times around, and you are correct. It is the Kaaba in Jerusalem, the cube in Jerusalem that all the Jews were to because of Jericho. Joshua was to go around Jericho 7 times counterclockwise, blowing the trumpet. So this is nothing new, folks. They've just lifted it from Jerusalem. It was in Jerusalem first. Now it's in Mecca today. All right? They're just copying Jerusalem. Why? Because the Jewish pilgrims always went out. Now,
Well, that's a big one. He made the claim that the Muslims going around 7 times around the Kaaba is exactly what the Jews did when they visit Jerusalem. Now, I never heard about this practice. Now, did they try to circumambulate Jerusalem? I guess not. Maybe Holies of Holies. But if you look at the compound on the Temple Mount, there is no room to do that, especially big crowd. And maybe you can check with ChatGPT, our sheikh. No, we dropped the sheikh Google. We don't like him anymore. We use ChatGPT.
Yeah, and it says that there was only really one religious practice of Jews, any Jews circumambulating something related to the temple, and that's the altar in the temple.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the Holy of Holies or the temple itself or Jerusalem as a city. It was the altar, and it was not a regular practice. It wasn't for everybody either. It wasn't for the Jews in general. Like you would think if the Kaaba, the practice of circumambulating the Kaaba, if the Muhammad or the Muslims took it from it, or the pagans took it from Jewish practice, that it would be in some way similar. Like it's for all people going around the Kaaba.
Yes.
But it's only for the priests going around the altar. And they did it during one festival, which was Sukkot. And it was on the 7th day that they went around it 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
But on the first 6 days of the 7-day festival, they went around it once. So has nothing to do with doesn't have any significance like Jay is talking about. And it wouldn't provide the basis for what he's saying.
And I guess it was not because of the Jericho, unless they want to walk around 7 times and we're hoping for the walls of the altar will collapse after that.
Yeah, they want the temple to be destroyed, I guess.
What
the good Jewish practice of, what is it? And were they blowing trumpets as they're going around 7 times, hoping it could fall? This is like the 7 times in Jericho is a sign of judgment. It's not.
Yeah. So that's we strongly disagree with Jay on that. He tried to, I think, he has some idea of, and he tried to use everything to prove this idea, meaning that everything what Islam takes, he took it from the Jewish place, from Jewish practice, and from Jerusalem. So he tried to link Kaaba or Mecca to Jerusalem, Kaaba to temple, and all the practices of the Hajj and everything. It's just, he tried to say, well, it's all been done by the Jews. Well, not really. The Jews never really do that, as you mentioned, right? So
yeah, he's looking for anything that will
support,
somehow provide like some parallel or something, but that's not how you construct a proper historical theory.
Yeah, when I heard that first, we just check online, and we went online and checked what he said, and it's right away the information is against what he said. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine the Muslims actually could, if let's say any Christian who listened to Jaya lecture will use that bits of this information when they talk to Muslims, and Muslims will just refute him very easily. That's not going to be good. Like, this Christian will be ashamed, right? So why we should equip fellow Christians, with something which is not going to be providing any good result?
The problem actually is more with the Christians who are not ashamed when they're doing things that they should be embarrassed about.
Yeah.
And they're not open to correction. So this is kind of what we're doing. We're trying to offer correction. so people stop making these really terrible mistakes.
Yeah. Next.
Today, you see the Dome of the Rock is sitting right there. Actually, this is an old picture, maybe 100 years old. So you can see Jerusalem is not as built up there as it is today. And you notice the dome is not gold. It is gold today. It was only made gold in 1876.
That's interesting. He made the claim, which immediately caught my attention. Because he has a picture, and he said correctly, it's about 100 years old picture from today. So it's actually that picture, I think it went a few other, and especially there's another picture is looking from the east, looking to the west. It was taken by I think it was Australian guy on a plane in 1917 when Allenby captured Jerusalem from Turks. So they went on in the air and took a picture. And presumably that also picture came next after that. So the first picture was taken of the Temple Mount was taken in 1917.
Well, they definitely wouldn't be taking a plane in the 1800s.
Exactly. So he said, it's very interesting. He said this 100 years old picture, and as you see, dome is not golden. Well, first of all, it's black and white picture, so it's kind of hard to say, right? But second of all, he said, well, because it was not, it was covered with gold only in 1876. Well, if it's been covered in gold in 1876, definitely it was still has a gold in 1917, right? So I tried to find why he said 1876 and find no reference. The only reference I find is 1955 when the gold was like alloy, actually. There is something was placed. I think it was 80 kilograms of gold was used to cover that area, right? With
55 and 76. I mean, I would have imagined maybe he made a mistake with a number, but I mean, it's so,
but that's
so different, those numbers.
Yeah, again, I think he heard some numbers of the year or something, but he didn't check himself, so that's why it happens, because
maybe this is a pattern here. He hears things and he's not checking, because he's not checking the hadith. He's not checking a lot of things, it seems like.
Yeah, well, I have to say,
as we also saw when we did our video on John of Damascus.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. So he didn't check John of Damascus himself. So he used somebody else's report, and maybe it was either incorrect or he just has he forgot some details. Anyway, so we see that it's not reliable what he said. Next.
Most of the outer parts of the Dome of the Rock the Dome of the Rock has been destroyed and rebuilt 11 times. Now, what do they do next? Next thing they do, there's the Kaaba there, right? They go around the Kaaba 7 times. Then they run back and forth between Safa and Marwa. Safa and Marwa. Remember, Safa and Marwa is where Hagar is looking for water. She's going to this mountain called Safa. She's going to this mountain called Marwa. Do those look like mountains to you? No, they look like rocks to me, just 20 feet high. Children can play on that. Yet that's the Safa and Marwa that they go to. Obviously, this is not the original Safa and Marwa. Am I correct? Because if this is the original Safa and Marwa, it would be way out in the desert, like I said earlier. It's not out in the desert. It's only 21 meters away from the Kaaba.
So he continues making the same mistake. When he was thinking that Abraham lived in Mecca, very close to Kaaba, probably, very close to Zamzam, and Safa and Marwa are very close to Zamzam, within a few hundred meters, I guess, I'm not sure. And then he presumed that Hagar was kicked out from Mecca far away, somewhere in Hijaz, and she was looking for the water. It could not be Safa and Marwa. That was his idea. So, but problem is, he created an alloy between Genesis 21 and Hadith of Muhammad ibn Abdullah, right? So, he tried to make us, it's almost like a straw man. He created another theory of how it happens, like separation of Hagar and Abraham happens. And he said, well, because that's wrong, obviously wrong. Yeah, exactly. So couldn't happen. So she couldn't find Zamzam and walk around between Safa and Marwa in Mecca. It should be somewhere else. let's say 50 kilometers from Mecca, right? As it was in the Bible, it's 50 kilometers from Gerar in Beersheba. So then she went away, right? So he's using, unfortunately, a wrong story which never existed before him. And he tried to say, well, because the story is wrong, then that's not the Safa and Marwa. Yeah, he's correct. The story is wrong, right? Let's listen.
So wait. I got a question. So
yes.
Did he say that the Dome of the Rock has been destroyed and rebuilt?
It's been rebuilt, or I'm not sure.
But he said Dome of the Rock, right?
Yeah.
The Dome of the Rock has been destroyed and rebuilt 11 times.
Oh, I checked it on ChatGPT.
And?
He said 11 times.
Yes.
Right? I said, how many times has the Dome of the Rock been destroyed or rebuilt? The Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem has never been destroyed and never rebuilt since its original construction.
Okay, what about...
So then I asked about the Kaaba. Maybe he meant the Kaaba. But that also, let me get to the summary. It's lists in all of the specific times that things happen, like renovations and stuff. It's mostly renovations and reconstruction from fires. It lists the Abrahamic foundation, one, Quraysh rebuilding it in 605, Ibn al-Zubair in 683. I think he's restoring it from fire damage. Abd al-Malik in 693. Return to Quraysh plan. Okay, that's what he did. And then fifth, the Ottomans in 1629 due to a flood. And then there are later repairs, which brings it to 6 in the 20th to 21st century, which are structural reasons.
What about renovations?
Not 11 times. The point is.
What about Dome of the Rock renovations? Can you share your screen with us?
I have to log in.
Okay, then.
Do you want me to do that? And
it's okay. Just I'll put it in there.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Do you want me to summarize it then?
What it said about how many times Dome of the Rock was not not rebuilt, but repaired or something.
Renovations and repair is six things it mentions.
And where? Dome of the Rock?
Dome of the Rock.
I thought that was...
so it looks like 6 and 6, pretty much.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So not 11.
Not 11. Okay. I don't know where he gets that.
Yeah, that's another question. We should ask.
That's a question we're asking a lot now.
Yeah. Okay, next.
Okay, next. Yeah.
There's the Kaaba. There's Safa and Marwa. The Zamzam well is right there. So obviously these are nothing more than facsimiles. So where is the original Safa and Marwa then, that these are modeled after? They would have to be somewhere else, right? And much bigger. Dan Gibson thought it was here in Petra, because there is a Safa and Marwa, but those were only named there after the fact. That's intermediate Safa and Marwa. So where is the original Safa and Marwa? Just go to Jerusalem. There's the Temple Mount. That's where the Dome of the Rock is. It is called Mount Moriah. Mount Moriah in Arabic is Marwa. Marwa is the Arabic name for Mount Moriah. You go to the Kidron Valley down here, and the pilgrims would go down to the Kidron Valley, come back up to Mount Scopus. Mount Scopus in Arabic is Safa. Josephus writes about it in the 2nd century. Safa and Marwa. There is the original Safa and Marwa in Jerusalem. Surprise, surprise. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything Islam does is borrowed.
Okay. So we have this interesting idea of the Safa and Marwa is actually names of Mount Moriah and Mount Scopus. Was actually how in Arabic it sounds Mount Moriah.
Mount Moriah. So, yeah, I mean, I had to look it up. I asked ChatGPT for help for that one too.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's our sheikh.
Okay, so Mount Moriah in Arabic is Al-Mariya or Al-Muriya. And Marwa is Al-Marwa.
Okay, well, talk about Moriah is not Marwa. So it's
No.
different. Okay.
Maria.
Maria.
I mean, I might be
close to Maria.
emphasizing the syllable in the wrong way.
Yeah. What about
Maria.
Scopus?
Moria is
Moria.
another version.
Okay. Yeah. What about Scopus?
The Arabs, it says the Arabs call it Jabal al-Masharif.
No, nothing about.
Masharif.
Yeah.
Now
Nothing.
that's what the Arabs call it, but let me see if there's any other mention in my searching.
Mhm.
Well, why don't I just ask again? So what's your question specifically for that?
Question is, what's the name of Mount Scopus in Arabic?
Yeah, it's what I said, Jabal al-Masharif, which
Mashallah.
means Mount of the Viewpoints or
Viewpoints.
Mountain.
Okay, so it cannot be Safa. Nowhere near.
No, Safa, yeah, no.
Now then also he mentioned Josephus bypassing. He said Josephus mentioned, and he said Safa and Marwa. But Josephus mentioned, what's the Greek word for Mount Scopus in Josephus?
What it is, that word is Scopus.
Scopus. So you cannot call it Safa, and Mount Moriah could not be called by Josephus Marwa, because that, first of all, it's not Arabic, it's Greek, right?
Right.
So he cannot use Arabic names.
Right.
But when we hear what Jay says, is basically here he kind of get idea. He tried to make us agree or think that Josephus called these two mountains Marwa and Safa. That's what he is implying. And what about Josephus? Why Josephus mentioned that Scopus, Mount Scopus? What was the reason for him?
So Mount Scopus is mentioned by Josephus as a military encampment site used by Titus during the siege of Jerusalem in 70 CE. Okay,
so nothing to do with any pilgrimage. And now we're coming to the final one, was a pilgrimage of people supposedly in Jerusalem. And Jay said they're going from Mount Moriah, go down to the Hebron Valley, and comes back to Mount Scopus, which is Safa, and goes back 7 times. That he made a claim that Jewish pilgrims walking down from Mount Moriah to Kedron Valley and up to Scopus and back as a pilgrimage, which is, I never heard of any Jew does this as a practice. But we couldn't find it in the Bible, in the Torah, in the Tanakh, in the New Testament. We can find nothing like a ritual, anything like that close. Can you check with ChatGPT and find out, please?
Yeah, I'm doing that. There is no evidence in Jewish historical or religious sources that Jews practice pilgrimage specifically between Jerusalem and Mount Scopus as a ritual, religious requirement, or tradition. However, Mount Scopus did have symbolic and practical importance, especially in the context of exile and longing. So, in other words, 1, no ritual pilgrimage in Jewish law, such as during the pilgrimages of, like the festivals of Passover, Shavuot, or Sukkot.
It's strange because in J. Smith, in order to support his idea, then Mecca was copied from Jerusalem directly, and all practice, which is pagan practice, by the way, like walk around the Kaaba 7 times and Safa and Marwa 7 times, running between them or walking between them. It's all taken from a Jewish roots, like Jewish practice.
Right.
And so he's not only inventing certain story of Abraham and Hagar living in Mecca together before expulsion. So he created a new alternative reality for Islamic traditions and stories. He also created a new reality for the Jewish traditions as well.
Right.
He claimed that they did something they never done before, ever. Mm-hmm. So they never walk around like as pilgrims, as a group of people, not around Jerusalem 7 times, not around the Temple Mount, not around Holy or even altar. So altar only with priests were walking around.
Yeah.
One time only in one.
On one day during one festival.
Yeah. That's it. So that's how he can get close to that event, right? And definitely,
what you would expect is if there was some actual parallel, it would be obvious. Like you could find it in a source that's really easy because that was a major thing that they did or prominent things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I said, like, yeah, he made quite a few mistakes, and I hope nobody tried to use his ideas on real Muslims and try to talk to them, because that will be very devastating for these Christians. And knowing how hard it is to talk to Muslims, you could be very easily dismayed, and you're going to stop doing evangelism because you presume you got the best argument because it's J. Smith who said it, right? So
it's so easy. There's no man, there's no place, there's no book.
Yeah, it's very easy.
His claim, right?
But try to bring anything like that as a proof to the Muslim.
Yeah.
I mean, if we find this, we disprove it as a Christians, like the Muslims will go like 100 times more, right? They will disprove it with different sources, which maybe we're not even aware of. Mm-hmm. But again, to tell, we're gonna talk about next time. I think J. Smith talking about Muhammad never existed, and he made the claim that it's very easy to use against Muslims in evangelism. And I think that's another like really dead end. You cannot really bring, even if Muhammad never existed, supposedly, but there is not enough evidence to shake foundation of any Muslim with that information, because it's simply whatever it might be compelling, whatever J. Smith said, compelling to Christians, but it will never be compelling to Muslims. So basically, we just waste our time talking about something which we could talk about something else with them. So
yeah, and I think for this, the main thing is it's a complete straw man. It's a complete invention of his own making somehow. I mean, it's not on us to figure out how he invented it, but the point is, it's not representing the Islamic view correctly. So there's no way that you can dismantle it.
Yeah.
Which that's our interest, is to see where there are places legitimately that are problems, and not misrepresent it or mischaracterize it. So when we often focus on this issue of Abraham and Ishmael and the building of the Kaaba and Abraham taking Hagar and Ishmael down to Mecca, and all of that narrative, because it is like among the most foundational narratives that defines Islam as a religion. So if you're misrepresenting that and you're attacking the straw man, it's a complete waste of time, as well as just wrong. But for us, it's a distraction from what actually matters.
Yep. And you will be disrespected by the Muslims. So
for sure, as you should be.
Yeah. So I think we could agree with J. Smith. I had a clip of him, and I heard him in person and online actually saying this interesting line about his ministry when he's bringing this to other Christians. And let's hear what he said in this clip.
I am a polemicist. I am the one that goes on the offense. And that's why I do what none of you are to do. Please don't do what I do.
Yeah, that's something we can agree on. That's don't do what he said. Don't use his that method, at least. So, and there are better ways to reach out Muslims for sure. So
absolutely.
I disagree with one saying, like there is 9 ways to skin a cat. I think it's just have a major flaw in it, because it's only one way. Actually, it will be most cost effective, fast and easy. But the rest won't be they won't never be the same, right? So
anyway. If you want to learn more, you watch the other videos on this channel where we talk about all that stuff and go into great detail. So don't just look at this as a criticism. We're trying to point you in the right direction. So just check out the other videos.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for this time, and see you next time.
Okay.
Bye.